Hi, I'm Holly, and with my sister Heather, you're listening to Haunted Family Podcast, a weekly podcast about the paranormal, unsolved mysteries, and even true crime.
And this is one of those cases that Holly does not like.
I know, oh my God. As I was researching this, I came up with this topic.
Yep.
I don't know why.
Normally the unsolved ones are things that I've came up with. And Holly, literally rants about it the whole time we're researching it. But this is all on her.
Well, I think because this is fascinating to me because I don't really know why it's fascinating to me, but I think that this case, there's no reason why it should be unsolved mystery.
I can tell you my theory why I think it's still unsolved, but that is going to wait for later on in the podcast. Because, I don't want to give away my theory right up in the first, 2 minutes of the episode.
Right, yeah, we got to save that for the end. Save it for the end. But I have a good theory also, so we'll see if ours are the same.
I would say probably.
Yeah, I honestly don't know how you can know anything about this case and not have that theory. So, I don't think that I have anything new to add for this week. Other than
Our contest is still going on.
yes, and hopefully by the time I get this updated, we'll still have a couple more days left. So go enter. You will love what you're going to be getting.
Yeah, Holly will put a link to the contest in the show notes.
I will.
And
I will also put a link to my shop, which is, gearing up for the Christmas season. We've got Christmas shirts and we've got Christmas ornaments, and I am happy to do anything custom. Just hit me up.
yeah, we got some really cute things in the giveaway.
Yes, we do.
You can see some of those things by visiting our Instagram page. We are super funny on Instagram.
We are. You should totally follow us.
Yeah.
Okay, so she leaves her husband in Connecticut and they move to California to be closer to her brother. They rent a cabin at a little resort in Keddie, California. There are other little cabins super close around where this cabin is.
It's like a vacation community, but
right.
People live there full time.
Right. And it seems like the kids settled in well and had made some friends. So on the night in question, which was April the 11th, Sue, the mother, who was 36, takes John, she and one of her older girls, Sheila, who's 14, they go to a little community called Quincy, which is about 5 miles away from Keddie, to pick up the 15-year-old John and his friend Dana. And they come back to their cabin, and then a couple hours later, John and Dana leave again and they hitchhike back to Quincy. I know you should never ever ever hitchhike, but it was the 80s and everybody hitchhiked. The 80s was just a big ball of dangerous. So Greg, who was 5, and Rick, who was 10, invite a friend over, Justin Smart. Justin's parents lived 2 doors down. Tina was next door at the Seabolt's house watching TV. Well, Sheila was going to stay at the Seabolt's house, and the girls stay over there together about an hour. At roughly 9 o'clock, 9:30, Tina leaves the Seabolts and comes back home. So by 9:30, the mom, who's 36, has a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I don't have the age for Justin Smart, so he's probably somewhere between 5 and 10.
Was in the house.
He
Holly?
was.
I didn't think
What?
I didn't think that Justin was in the house. I thought it was Dana Hall Wingate that was in the house with them.
No, Justin was also.
Oh, I didn't have him.
Yeah. Well, it's because he's not a victim.
Okay.
So, between...
Well, apparently I missed that while I was researching, and I'm glad that you caught that.
So, between 10 and roughly 1 o'clock in the morning, Dana and Johnny come back home from Quincy. Now, I'm just going to pause right there with that piece of timeline because that kind of goes back to some of my suspicion of what happened. So,
and the younger kids who were in the house but did not get killed actually underwent hypnosis, guided hypnosis by a psychologist that relates back to the boys coming home.
Right. Actually, I missed that. So
we'll get to that though.
Okay.
Yeah, that's putting the cart before the horse here.
Right. So.
Oh, and if you hear like weird noises in the background that Holly cannot edit out, my house rabbit is like he's running through the kitchen, just like going wild tonight.
Well, last time I had dog noises that I couldn't really edit out. And I've got 2 cats in here with me, but thankfully they both decided to lay down and go to sleep. So,
like, right now he's over at his water dish, drinking a little bit of water and then staring at me like, you know I'm going to be loud in just a second, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, we've got Sheila coming home about 7 o'clock in the morning.
And I don't ever remember coming home at 7 o'clock in the morning from staying at a friend's house.
Well,
that's early.
I think maybe I have on occasion, but it was only because maybe we were going somewhere that day or they were going somewhere. But if it was during the summer, there's no way. So, Sue, when Sheila walked through the door, Sue was laying on her side near their couch. She was naked from the waist down, gagged with a blue bandana and her underwear, and the underwear was taped to her face. Her throat was slashed, and she had lots of stab wounds, blunt force trauma from like a hammer, and she had the imprint of a Daisy 88 BB gun on her head. Like from the butt of the gun.
You'll shoot your eye out.
Yeah. So,
oh wait, that was a Red Ryder BB gun.
Johnny, her son, also had stab wounds, also had blunt force trauma, and his throat was also slashed. Dana did not have a slashed throat, but he did have stab wounds and he was manually strangled. Now, the older boys also had blood on the bottom of their shoes, as if they were alive when some of this was going on and was moved around. But when Sheila walked through the door, everybody was bound and gagged. Well, everybody was bound.
Tina was missing.
Yes, Tina, the 12-year-old, was nowhere to be found. They did, however, find her remains 3 years later.
Yeah, 3 years, 11 days later. Approximately 100 miles away.
Right. Okay.
So to me, that is kind of telling right there.
Right. And it's also, okay, it's also odd, I'm going to say, that the next door neighbors did not hear anything going on. And we're not talking about, these were not the distance apart like a house would be. I mean, like, they're really close. And nobody heard anything. Nobody saw anything. And there were 3 kids in the back room left alive. Also,
you can actually pull up, if you want, crime scene photos. There's a lot of blood.
Yeah, not only is there a lot of blood, but there is a lot of damage to the property. They stab marks in the wall, stuff turned, like, there was a struggle. And these 3 people, it was rage, lots and lots of violence. I mean, whoever did this was mad. And there wasn't just blood. Like, these bodies were moved afterwards. So not only was there blood where Sheila found them, but there was blood, like, pulled in other areas. So, I don't know. This crime scene, it was staged. I mean, that's the only other way you can. It's the only way you could say it.
Yeah. Sheila was able to determine that missing from the house was Tina's jacket and her shoes and a shoebox that the family had that contained various tools. Some families have junk drawers full of tools. They had a shoebox full of tools. The cabin showed no signs of forced entry.
Right, so more than likely there was a knock at the door and Sue answered it, which I never answer the door at night.
Under hypnosis by Dr. Jerry Dash of the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, Justin Smart claimed that he heard unusual sounds coming from the living room of the house while he was in the bedroom watching TV with the other children. And he says that he witnessed Sue with 2 men and was able to give them a description that they were able to make a sketch off of.
Right. He also said Tina walked into the room as if she had a purpose, and she was ushered out of the house through the kitchen, which led down some steep stairs in the back.
Yeah. Now, I think this is where the whole case gets interesting.
Right.
Justin's mom, Marilyn Smart, claimed that sometime after the murder, she found a bloody jacket that she knew belonged to Tina.
In their basement.
In her basement.
Right.
Yeah, she also claimed that her husband's hammer went missing. I do kind of find that weird because I find it weird when people only own 1 hammer.
Right. Do you know I own at least 3 hammers 50. And 2 mallets.
Yeah, I own a ton of hammers. And I can't go to like an estate sale or something without picking up another hammer. I have a pretty big collection of hammers. And I'm sure our listeners are like, well, she's weird. But, I like hammers.
Well, it's just a tool that you can always use.
Yes. And, I like good hammers. I like hammers with a good weight to them. And you got to have different hammers for different projects. One hammer is not, one size fits all tool.
Right. So let's just say that this crime scene was bungled from the start.
Yes.
For one, they let Justin Smart cover Sue's body up with a blanket.
Yeah.
And as we know from the JonBenet Ramsey, don't touch the body. Definitely don't cover the body up. You contaminate the crime scene.
Yeah. But I kind of think that it was contaminated on purpose.
I do too. So, Marilyn and Marty Smart were having trouble. Lots of trouble. And Marilyn was wanting to leave him. And so she was talking to Sue about leaving her husband because, Sue was recently divorced and was doing well as a single mom of 5 kids. Well,
and,
Marty...
I kind of remember back in the 80s, divorce was still kind of rare.
Well, back in the 90s...
At least in some circles, Well,
I mean, in the 90s, when our parents got divorced, it was still... Well, I guess they got divorced early 2000s. But it was still not super common.
Yeah. But, Marilyn claimed that on the evening of the murders, that she left her husband and one of his friends, John Booty, and I'm sure I'm saying his name wrong, but, oh well, at a bar at 11 p.m. And they didn't get home until sometime after 2, when she woke up to find them burning something in the wood stove.
Right. Cannot even with this case. There was evidence that was never logged. There was a confession when Tina's body was found. Somebody calling in to say that they did it. That was never logged into evidence. It wasn't until way later that the audio recording of that confession, because it was called in, that it was even found. DNA tests not done or collected. I mean, it's just...
Yeah. Actually, as recently as April of 2018, they have stated that DNA pulled from a piece of tape at the crime scene matches a known living suspect.
Right.
But I go back to this. Martin Smart's hammer went missing.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
On March 24th, 2016, a hammer matching that of Martin Smart was found in a pond close to the crime scene. And the current sheriff, who was only 16 years old at the time of the murder, said that the location that the hammer was found, it had to have been intentionally put there. That it could not have just ended up there by accident.
Right. So I think also pretty telling, there were 3 people left alive, and one of them was the son of Marty Smart.
Yeah. Well, shortly after the murders, Martin Smart left town. He fled to Reno, Nevada. And while there, he wrote Marilyn a letter. He concluded the letter by saying, "I paid the price of your love, and now I've bought it with 4 people's lives." To me, that sounds like a murder confession.
Yeah, but it does to me too.
And I personally do not care if the sheriff at the time said that he personally did the lie detector test and personally interviewed Martin Smart. Because just this week, here in Kentucky, we had a former state police detective who had to plead guilty to destroying evidence and lying under oath in a murder trial. So, I mean, it does not mean anything to me that the sheriff at the time said that he personally interviewed him. They are not immune to lying. They are not immune to covering for their friends. I wish they were. I wish that all cops were impartial and there to uphold the law and find justice and, but they're not. Not all of them. And I don't want that to come off as me hating cops, because I have a lot of friends who are cops. I used to work for a sheriff's office. That's couldn't be the furthest from the truth. It's just, I know the reality of it.
Right.
Sometimes you get bad seeds.
That's true.
And I think that the sheriff in this case might have been a bad seed. Might have been trying to protect his friend. And, it might have been one of these, well, she's an outsider and this guy's a local. He's a friend. We've known him. We grew up with him. I mean,
Right.
you've lived in Moorhead for how long and you're still seen as an outsider?
I've lived here since I was 18, except 3 very brief years I lived in Lexington. And yeah. So even though my kids have only ever lived here, yeah, so even though they're considered local, I am not.
And you never will be.
Oh, no.
And that's just how some towns are.
And I actually married a local.
And I think that...
And that was, it used to make me so angry because that was the first question that he would ask. Are you from here? Like, he would ask just random, like, you meet somebody for the first time. Are you from here? I don't know why, but it just sets me off. And so now, like, whenever we have an election or whatever and somebody uses that as a reason why you should vote for him, is born and raised here, I'm voting for the other guy then. Just, I don't know. It's just one of my pet peeves.
Yeah, no matter what. And, some towns are like that. And this might have been the case with Keddie, California. I'm not saying 100% it was, but, it might have been. It might have been a case of the sheriff was trying to protect a good old buddy. And thus bungling a murder case.
Right.
I could be wrong, but yeah. The Smarts lived super close. They lived, 2 cabins away?
Yeah.
And according to Marilyn, her husband hated Johnny.
Right. Which I don't understand. Okay. I think that Marty and his friend Bo leave the bar and they are drunk and angry. And they go over to confront Sue about the fact that she is trying to bust up his marriage. They walk in, start to, I don't know, harass her, possibly even trying to rape her because she was naked from the waist down. Tina comes in to defend her mom. She gets taken outside. Justin sees it all, realizes it's his dad, comes up with some cockamamie story about what these people look like. And then Johnny and his friend come home. As this whole crime thing is happening, there's a scuffle. They're trying to defend Sue, and they end up a casualty in all of this. Justin realizes that his dad is a murderer and stays hunkered down in the room with the other boys until they leave, and then spends the entire night with, dead bodies. Possibly tells his mother what happened, and that's why his mother leaves Marty.
Yeah. I think it's likely.
Yeah,
I do think that it's very likely that the killers were Martin and his buddy.
Oh, I do too. I think that that's who the killers were.
Apparently, John Booty, however you pronounce his last name, had ties to organized crime and actually died in Chicago just a few years after this.
I can't say that I am sad about that. But for whatever reason, though, the ex-husband was not a suspect.
Well, I mean, he was all the way across the country in California, in Connecticut at the time.
Well, yes.
So I would say that it would probably be very easy to, see whether or not he traveled to...
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I just know that I am 99.9% sure that it was Marty and his friend. I mean, they had motive, they had means, and they both left town right after it happened, and that would explain why the kids in the back weren't touched.
Yeah. The current special detective who's working the case actually grew up with the kids. He was 16 at the time. He says that DNA found on surgical tape on, I think, Sue's body matches a living suspect that he has gotten DNA samples of and found a match. One, I don't know why he hasn't made an arrest yet. But do you think there's a possibility that Justin was involved in the murders?
That's possible.
I mean, you can tell just by looking at the crime scene and looking at the weapons that was left behind. Multiple knives and another hammer, in addition to the hammer that was ditched in the pond, and the BB gun that was not recovered at the scene. That there was more than one person responsible for this. But could Justin be a suspect? Could he be more than just... I mean, I know he was young at the time, but...
If so...
Maybe even just an unwilling accomplice.
I'm thinking he was probably not willing, but how could he leave the boys? I just don't know how all three of the boys in the bedroom didn't know what was going on.
That is one of the reasons why I firmly believe that Martin Smart was one of the killers. Because Justin was left alive. Because the kids in the other room were not harmed.
But how did they not wake up?
They had the TV going. They had to have known that there was other people in that house. I don't make a habit of leaving a TV on in a room I'm not in.
That's true, and I don't either. So, you're right. So, that's probably how the other boys didn't hear the commotion, was the TV. But then Justin probably heard enough to wake up, see what was going on, and was forced to comply somehow.
But I mean, if it was surgical tape taken from his home, like tape that the family had around their house, his DNA evidence could have been on it just from the fact that he used it once.
Right. Of course, his DNA evidence might be on it because he touched it somehow when he was covering her. I mean, this crime scene was really, really botched. I mean, the new prosecutor said it was almost like somebody put the evidence in a gun and then just shot it out like confetti.
And I know that's one of our biggest complaints about cases from like the 70s and 80s is that the crime scene is almost always compromised.
I don't know how crimes back then ever got solved. I mean, and you think like those are the days of some big name serial killers. How did we ever catch them?
Dumb luck.
I mean, gosh, you almost possibly have to just walk in on somebody murdering somebody because just police work was not what it is today. I mean, DNA was hardly a thing. But yeah, that is my thought, is that Johnny and Dana walked in on the murder in progress. Tina walked in on the murder in progress. And they all died. Justin walked in on the murder in progress and nothing happened.
Because it was his dad.
Right.
And while we do occasionally see people who kill their own children, you know, Justin was not Martin's target.
Right. So, we're in agreement. Do we have a stupid criminal?
Oh, I'm sure we do. Let me hit my vast repository of stupid criminals, also known as the save folder on Facebook.
Oh my god, we have so many stupid criminals lately.
Okay, how about this one? Do you like potato chips?
You know I love potato chips. I'm serious. The cheddar sour cream, oh my god. It's like crack.
Like, I don't buy potato chips because I can't stop eating them.
True.
So I just don't buy potato chips. But I don't think I would ever shoot somebody over potato chips.
I can't say that I've ever shot anybody over potato chips.
Well, Ryan Langdale, 19, of South Carolina, turned himself into deputies on Wednesday and was charged with attempted murder, possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime, and obstruction of justice. On September 29th, police were called to the home where Langdale's cousin had been shot. Both he and the victim told deputies that the shooting was self-inflicted and happened when the 17-year-old was cleaning a hunting rifle.
Okay.
Yeah, but the story started changing.
The story always changes.
As police started questioning them. And eventually, Langdale confessed that he shot his cousin after warning him not to eat his salt and vinegar potato chips. He said, and I quote, "Do not touch my chips or I'll shoot you." The victim told authorities that he never actually ate the chips as Langdale claimed.
Okay. I hate it when I accidentally shoot people for no reason.
I could just think that guy could have better tasting potato chips than salt and vinegar.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of salt and vinegar at all. But when Barb and I were living together, that was my college roommate. I know you know that's my college roommate. That's mostly for everybody else listening. Also for everybody else listening, I just don't like cereal unless it's Count Chocula, which I can only get in October. So I obsessively buy boxes of it so that, you know, I can get my fix later on. I mean, it might be stale, but at least I get my fix later on. And so I had a couple boxes when we were living together, and I wrote, "You better not touch." I didn't care. Like, I would share any food that I had except my Count Chocula cereal.
She's still that way.
I only get it one time a year. It's like Girl Scout cookies.
I made Count Chocula Rice Krispie treats this year.
What? I bet they were good.
They were. I should make you sometime.
You should. Well, you need to buy some boxes soon because they're probably like no longer in the stores.
My store has already started discounting them down.
Mine just sells out. We never get to a point that they get discounted.
But, I mean, I don't think you'd ever actually shot Barb over eating your stuff.
No, but I didn't have a gun on campus. I might scare her with a knife, but she would also have a knife. So
probably bigger.
I'd probably just pout at her until she gave in.
And went out and bought you another box.
Yeah. I mean, one time I had a cow cookie jar, and if you raised the lid, it moved, and I used to drive her crazy with that. Like, if I wanted her to do something and she was asleep. I was a terrible roommate. Like, I don't know how anybody lives with me.
That's why you all ran off so many people. They had a 4-person suite, and it was just the 2 of them. Because they couldn't keep roommates.
We couldn't. If at one time you used to live with me and Barb on Morehead State's campus, I am sorry.
She's not really sorry.
Send me a message, and I will send you a care package.
She's not really sorry.
I'm not really sorry. One person I'm pretty sure was addicted to speed because she would iron. I mean, I'm not saying that people addicted to speed does this, but like this is just one of the things that she did in addition to like popping pills and having heart palpitations. She would freaking iron her blue jeans. Who irons their blue jeans? I own an iron, but I literally only use it for craft purposes. I never iron anything, especially not blue jeans.
I don't even have an iron in my house. I don't. There's irons over in the sewing room, but like there's no iron in my house.
I mean, I even have a steam iron, and I use that for taking down wallpaper. I mean, I don't have wallpaper in my house now, but I did when I moved in, and that's what I bought it for.
Oh Lord, I hate wallpaper.
I do too.
That's one thing about the 80s that I'm just like, ugh. It seemed like every house in the 80s had like wallpaper.
Except ours. But we had border.
Yeah.
Because Mom hated to paint close to the ceiling. So she would paint up to like an inch, and then she'd put border up.
But she hated wallpaper also. So.
She did, which is, I don't know why border was okay, but wallpaper was.
Because she hated painting trim worse.
I guess. Well, I think that's all I have for this week. Remember, check out our giveaway that's going on. Link will be in the show notes. Check out my shop. Also link in the show notes.
Check out our Instagram.
Instagram, yes. I was going to say Cat Hair and Glitter on Instagram. Nope, that is not our Instagram. I mean, it is our Instagram, but that's for my shop.
Check out my YouTube channel.
Yes, Haunted Family Podcast on YouTube.
And when we finally get to, I think it's like 100 subscribers, we can actually get a customized URL. And we desperately need that because it's so hard to find anything on the internet without a custom URL.
Right. Although, if you go to YouTube and you Google Haunted Family Podcast, we're like the third thing that pops up.
Yeah. I think I'm doing pretty good things there. At least I hope so. If you have a true paranormal story that you would like to share with me so I can put it out over the YouTube channel, either anonymous or, if you want credit, I can give you credit. Send us an email at hauntedfamilypodcast@gmail.com.
If you have a stupid criminal.
Yes. If you have a stupid criminal, send us an email, hauntedfamilypodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from our listeners, so send us an email.
Yep. And thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.